when Madison approached us and said, hey, like, I want to do a cover, we asked her for a list of songs that we thought that, you know, she might want to do, or stuff that she had been looking forward to and that we could all kind of sift through. And what kind of immediately jumped out was there were a bunch of Skillet songs on the list, and obviously she was a huge fan of that. So we kind of knew right from that point that Skillet was a band we wanted to cover, which worked out well for all of us because not only were we all fans, but we had all seen them multiple times live. And if you ever see them, one of the things that they kind of show off is how high energy their shows are and how much they just want to bring it the whole time. So we kind of had that idea in mind when we were selecting what we wanted to choose. For most of us, we had a really strong connection with Whispers in particular, not only because it's really heavy and kind of suited our style more, but there's some really cool lines in there, melodies that would be really fun to play around with, specifically from the guitar side of things, which was really nice. From my point of view coming in, I knew that I wanted to make things hit really hard and have a certain emphasis on certain parts, specifically at like the beginning of the chorus. Like, I knew that we wanted like a really heavy thing to come in there, and when we were designing the song, the chorus was actually the part that we wrote first, as coming up with ideas for that and kind of playing around with how that rhythm was going to be, because we knew that that was like the most important part, like the focal point of the initial no coming into it was super important. So that was kind of the idea that we had, or that I at least brought in to the band when covering that song, is because I knew that since we had seen them and since we had those experiences, we knew that kind of heaviness and that kind of punch was how we wanted to design this song.
Admittedly, the first time I ever heard a Skillet song when I was a teenager, I did not like Skillet, mainly because I was not used to hearing like that quote-unquote heavy of music. However, when I heard the song Whispers in the Dark, that totally changed my mind. And then when I met Trevor and he really enjoyed Skillet, we started listening to it more together, and it quickly became one of my favorite bands because I just love what they do. I love their message. I love everything about them. So they are really, really iconic band in my mind now, 15 plus years later after hearing them for the first time. So when Madison came up to us and wanted to cover a song, of course, my mind immediately went to, it's gotta be a Skillet song. When we decided on Whispers in the Dark, initially I didn't want to cover Whispers in the Dark. I wanted to cover a different song from them because I just felt that my voice was nowhere near as gritty and gruff as John's is, and I didn't want to sing it in a way that I didn't think would do the original justice, but it just felt like it was the right song to cover, so I kind of let that go. I decided to do what I love to do and add some screams in the backup instead. So we have a lot of parts where I'm screaming the same words underneath the main vocal, and we just layered those over top of each other, and I think that's kind of like the thing that I really like to do with vocals, is have that nice clean feminine overtone, but in the background there's a little bit of grit to it. Along with what the guys did, I think it all came together in a really cool way. We didn't go too far from the original, but we were able to add our signature Stands on Sapphires sound to it, and I'm really happy with how it came out. It's one of the songs that I'm definitely most proud of as of right now. So that's why we covered Whispers in the Dark, and those are my thoughts on Skillet.
So I've liked Skillet for probably the longest amount of time out of anyone in the band. I was introduced to them back in my high school youth group at church. We used to do youth conferences, and Skillet would play there sometimes. Church camps for younger kids, and we play songs for them, as well as actually do some little skits along to Skillet songs. Whispers specifically has been my favorite Skillet song since I was introduced to the band. I think it was one of the first songs I ever heard, and I've always wanted to cover this song specifically. It's cool when Madison came to us and wanted to cover a Skillet song. I immediately wanted to do this one. We weren't sure if we could do it right off the bat. The tuning is pretty low, and I'm not super big fan of doing really low tuning on guitar. So we thought, why not just do it, but tune it up a notch. Especially because female vocals, Beth can go a bit higher. It makes it our own. It makes it a bit different by doing that. Other ways we thought would be cool to vary it was the intro and the ending. After Beth does her awesome little acapella thing, I wanted to do a string intro with Wade and I and Madison kind of just doing shots here and there to introduce the intensity of the song and kind of ramp it up, and then go right into that main iconic riff that everybody knows from the song. And then for the outro, Wade and I just really wanted to do some shredding together. So that's kind of where we came to the idea of just start at the top and just shred down the neck until we got there. The one thing I really wanted to change was the solo. whenever we do a cover, if it has a solo or anything in it, I always like to write my own, just because that is kind of my own fingerprint on that song. And while I like the original solo, I think it's lacking a bit of the melody. I love the chorus melody of that song. I wanted to include the chorus melody in my solo for the first half, and then put some shred stuff in there and go back to it and that kind of thing. That's usually how I like to write solos, so that's one thing I really wanted to change personally. I'm really happy with how it turned out.